I want to spend the next 10 minutes opening this to the floor because really it's about audience participation. I hope there's a microphone that can go around. And what we'll do, we'll take a number of questions, and if you feel that any you'd like to respond to, just jot them down. Do we have a microphone? On the floor? Yeah, there's a lady over here. And then Professor Jenga, in that order. Back there. Behind you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Agatha. Yes, I'm the publisher of the Can-Do Company. We do nothing but ebooks. Now, I was looking at the document yesterday that sort of compiles all the mandates that counties here in Kenya should be doing. And one of the mandates has to do with, function and powers of the county are also to, to do something about cultural activities. And so under that, you have also the development of libraries, museums, and cinemas. Now, you've all been talking about very interesting data, but what is anybody really doing anything towards also developing the cultural aspect of the counties? That's what I'd be interested in. What I'd like to be able to do is to plug into this and also help. But yeah, I mean, and you see, I'd be very interested to know what is there for that we're doing, to enhance the cultural activities as well, because everybody seems to be creating solutions for health, manufacturing, and agriculture, but what is there really that we can do for cultural activities?
Thank you. Dr. Jenga there.
Thank you very much, Mugo. Open data sometimes seems to be a misnomer, in my opinion. The first thing is we never define what is really to be opened to the public. The security issues that govern this country are certainly not part of the open data. The second thing is that we are not yet in the state we can say we have an efficient e-government system where information is properly assessed for quality, truthfulness, fairness, for provision. So where are we in this? And finally, in a country like this, I would suggest a research percentage of data and divide it between public and private sector. The public sector, we may say, has probably 60% of the data necessary to make decisions and to make assessment. 40% is the private sector. Who's answering the question as to what information the private sector should put out there as open data? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's see, on this end. Yep, go ahead. And back there in the meantime.
My name is Mbogwenje here. Under Grupo, there's a project you're doing called Countellect, and you're looking at bringing intelligence back to governance. And the biggest challenge we faced was in our quest to get information, we kept being referred to the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, who pre-digest data and give it to you in Excel sheets and PDFs. And I just want it raw. Because you're building a solution, unfortunately, we use open data to look historically, and we're trying to mine it once and then empower the MPs. Unfortunately, most of them have left, but really empower them to have what we call collaborative government. Because there's no point of knowing how many people were poor between 1985 and 90 without having the ability to see how your current interventions are in real time affecting your policy decisions and stuff like that. So if they could just open it up in terms of the data that's already there, that Kenya Bureau of Statistics is using, open it up, and a way of doing that is maybe to have, say, 5 companies that are given that mandate to manage that data on behalf of government. Because I don't think government has enough capacity. So you have these 5 companies that can literally give layered access to say company X can give data to this sort of depth, company Y can give to this sort of depth, and we are willing to pay for access to that information because you're building a business out of it, because the 42 governments will be our clients and they will be paying. So we just needed to, the frameworks are there, the data is there. We need to really stop over-processing it or just use it at looking at historical issues.
Let me take that, because factually, just like we have a fully fledged Ministry of Mining created under the new Jubilee government, we also have a Ministry of Culture, Sports and the Arts. And I think you will find that amongst the priorities of that ministry is exactly what you're talking about. Right now in Nairobi, there's a big renewal of the Kenya National Library Services, and that is a project that is countrywide, and not just countrywide in terms of different counties, but even within Nairobi County, in the suburbs, we're having new libraries coming up. But in terms of how do we have culture and that, I think I would just leave that and say that the Ministry of Culture will be taking that up, because I don't think it will be fair. But Kamoto, you want to comment on that?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think I just saw, I think about a week ago, a huge policy document about culture and languages. I think government is right now having a conversation about what is this thing called culture, because I'm not even sure we've even agreed on definitions, you know. Is culture the Kikuyu hats and the women wearing the long earrings? What is dynamism in culture? I think that's a conversation that's ongoing, and the place of culture in the context of our national life, where we're trying to, you know, have unity in diversity. These are conversations I think the nation is having. I think with regard to the counties, yes, it is a core function of the counties. But I think at this time, and I can't speak for the governors, I suspect in terms of priority, that it's probably not the one thing that government, a county government is investing most of its resources in. But I suspect that in the very short future, what you'll be seeing is counties try to leverage on areas of their best advantage. You're going to find that some of those functions that don't appear to be, I was going to use the word sexy, then I decided not to, that don't look that way, you know, are the sorts of issues that you'll find some counties investing in. But I suspect that right now, most counties are trying to ensure they have enough revenue just to survive, ensure they have their systems in place. It is at the national level that a policy discourse is happening. But now that I'm on the mic, let me say this. I think one of the dangers of this entire discourse on data is the fact that we're almost getting to a culture where data is given for data's sake. So that there's a lot of information out there. Even if you read open data, kenyaopendata.gov, there's a lot of information there that I'm not sure is useful for me as a citizen. It's very interesting, but in terms of usability for my decision making, it's not useful. As a Kenyan, the sort of data I'm looking for is probably not poverty trends. It may be interesting to the statisticians, but for me as a citizen, there's a lot more information that is useful for me on my daily decision making process that is not available. And I think that's something we need to really concentrate on. What is data for? We're giving people data so that they can engage with government, so that they can engage in daily private decisions. There's a lot of data. I think sometimes data overload is actually intended to ensure citizens don't take part in decisions because they're constipated with data. You know, every day there is data, lots of numbers, lots of figures. So it's just saying, let's rethink which is the mode in which you transmit data. We are generally not having reading culture. Should we think, why is it that the mobile phone is so popular? It's because we like to talk and to listen. Why is it the FM stations are very popular? Because we like to talk and listen. Why are the newspapers not as popular? You know, so we also need to ask, how do we transmit data in a way that addresses our circumstances? So those are some of the conversations that I think we need to continue having.
For that to work, it's really important for there to be a process of agreeing on what are the metrics that matter. So what are the things that really matter to counties? What are the things that matter to county citizens? And that takes usually what we've seen in other countries that have pursued conditional grant programs, et cetera, on top of like Kenya's equitable share, which is an unconditional grant to the counties. is the potential to agree on those kind of metrics that are connected to services that people really want. I think that's one of the places where there's a real potential because it's possible to have this huge, there's lots of data that already exists on many indicators. If you go over to the Ministry of Planning, or as Mbugo was saying, the Bureau of Statistics, there are many different indicators. But looking at what's available versus what matters takes both a lot of comparison but also dialogue between key stakeholders in society. And without that dialogue, and I know some counties are already going down that path. And certainly from the bank's perspective, devolution, one of the things that often breaks down in devolution is that information flows tend to break down, especially if there aren't real standards by which information is collected at different levels of government. And the whole issue of comparative data and being able to compare performance across subnational entities on things that matter really makes a difference in managing devolution in the long run.
You can imagine a practical situation where a farmer wants to know what was, based on geographical data, what is the production per square meter or per acre of tea. Imagining we are speaking about a tea farmer, okay? That is something he wants to access because maybe he has an opportunity to buy another piece of land and he wants to know if it is a good investment or it is a bad investment. So that is some data that can be already processed and can be available for him. But you can also imagine that what you don't want to make it as simple, because if you leave access to raw data to everybody, then some people having bigger mean of data mining can build something completely different. They can, for example, build an historical graph. They can get from the raw data not only the production per acre, but also the price that the tea was sold at during that time. You can have the number of sell and buy of the land. You can have a lot of things that at the beginning you didn't want to show. But if you give access to raw data, you can give access to that also. So it's always a balance. What the people really need on a day-to-day basis, and some extra data that if you give access to the raw data, they can build by themselves. But to think that you will be able one day to provide all the data for all requests already pre-processed, I think is a dream. You will not be able.